Hey everybody! So I'm going to talk a little bit about working with a designer remotely. So you may be a small business owner and you finally decided that, you need some help with maybe some ads or some flyers or even a website. You just need some help. So what do? Are you going to maybe ask for some referrals from some other business owners you know? Are you going to look around town? Are you going to Google? There are a ton of choices out there. So you might be wondering, well, should I work with someone local or should I be working with somebody remotely? There are a lot of benefits to working with someone locally. You can meet up with them, kind of gauge their personality. You can kind of get a lot more done sometimes in person. But, that's only sometimes. I've had a lot of in person meetings that really were kind of a waste of time, and it could have been summed up in like a quick phone call or just like a one sentence email even. So meeting in person doesn't always equal or mean that you're going to get more done or it's going to turn out better. I actually work with a lot of local businesses, and most of our communication is through email. I don't meet up with them in person very often, maybe once every couple of months. So really, it doesn't even matter that I'm in the same town as them, except that maybe I'll see them around town once in a while and say hi. But as far as the working relationship goes, most of it's done through phone calls or through email. I'm a big fan of working remotely for people just because in this day and age, there's so much technology out there that there's no reason that you can't do that. You can FaceTime people, you can Skype people. There's really not a big difference anymore, especially when even locally you're still emailing and calling most of the people anyway. So, really, when you think about it, even if you're emailing and calling the local person, it's really not that different from working with someone remotely. So I'm going to go ahead and give you some tips on how to work with someone remotely so that your project ends up being successful. My first tip is that you want to ask the designer about their processes and how they like to work. If a designer can tell you their workflow or their processes and the phases of the project, what to expect, if they can easily tell you what their expectations of both themselves and of you are, then that's a sure way of knowing that the project will go smoothly. They've obviously done it a few times, they have it down, and they have a system that works for them that allows them to get the project done in an efficient and timely manner. They're not going to waste a lot of time in being disorganized. Basically, if the designer can tell you all of those things, they have experience and they're professionals. The next thing is you need to know your goals. It's important to talk to your designer about these as well. Your designer should be asking you about your goals for the project and how you're going to measure the success of that project. Every project is unique because your business is unique. Your goal needs to be defined. Now, if you need help defining that, then you can talk to the designer about maybe doing a discovery session with you or hiring another consultant or strategist to help you out with that. Some designers do both. So you may want to ask your designer if you need help with that, and maybe they can set something up with you to kind of get that fleshed out. But knowing the goal will dictate how the project goes. If you're really unsure about what the goal is and what you want, then nothing the designer do will be what you want because you don't know what you want. So it's super important that you know your goal, know the problems you're having, and look for solutions that solve those problems. And if you need help with it, get a consultant or a strategist. My next tip is emails. When you're sending emails, make sure that each email only has one subject. I once had a client send me multiple emails a day, each email being probably 300 to 500 words, random subjects thrown in, no punctuation. It was super hard for me to read and keep it organized. It took me 2 to 3 times as long to find information in those emails than with my other clients. Each of those emails just had so many subjects in there that later on down the road when I was trying to reference something, I would have to go through every single email that this person sent, and it took too long. And yeah, I charge them for that because that's my time. If each email had just been in its own subject, I easily could have just searched for that, found the information I needed, and been on my way. So, really, you're slowing everyone down when you put everything in one email. I know it seems like you're getting it out of the way, and I'll just put everything in this email and I'll just be there. But just for being able to search for things and being able to keep track of things, it makes it a lot harder. So, one email, one subject. Now, if you absolutely have to have multiple subjects in an email, use bullet points. I don't recommend this unless you absolutely have to. So this is like a last resort. But use bullet points or a numbering system so that the designer can easily respond to that particular, line item and it makes sense and it's easy to find. But don't, I would not make a habit of that, and I would only do that if the subjects are related and maybe don't warrant an entire email by themselves. But use caution when doing that because it can still be confusing. My next tip is, if your email requires more than like a yes or no answer, or it needs a lot more details in it, just call. Maybe email, set up a time to chat, but you need to just call them, have a 10-minute conversation. You get a lot more done in a 10-minute conversation than 30 emails back and forth. I've had, 30 back and forth emails, and honestly, it would have just been easier just to jump on the phone real quick, ask a few questions, write down some things, do, whatever we need, and be done in the 5 or 10 minutes instead of spending, an hour or two just checking on emails, responding, and not knowing what the other person's really talking about. If there's any ambiguity in that, just just call. It's so much easier to do that over the phone, and then it's so hard to read people through email too. My next tip is, if you are unclear on anything, just tell the designer. It's fine. No one knows everything. If you're not understanding something or you need a little bit more clarification on something, just ask. We're all humans. I like my clients ask me questions because it lets me know that they care, and it allows me to start building more of a relationship with them. You want a designer you can trust, and if the designer takes the time to explain things to you and talk to you like a human because you are one, then that's a good designer to have on your side. All right, my last tip is utilize technology. You have Skype, you have Zoom, you have phones, you can text, you can Snapchat, you can do all sorts of things to communicate with one another. There's no need to just stick to one thing and feel like you're not really being able to communicate. If you don't like communicating through email, just let your designer know and figure out a way that works for both of you. A lot of designers like email because it's in writing and it gives us time to kind of think about the questions and think about how we'll word things so that we're saving time, being efficient. It just helps us organize our thoughts a little bit better. But if you really want to do a face-to-face conversation, let the designer know. They can maybe make up an agenda, send that over to you, and then you have a very nice organized talk face to face or over the phone, and you get a lot of stuff done. But you have technology. It allows you to do all sorts of things. Just because you're working remotely doesn't mean that you don't have to communicate with them. I would suggest communicating with them like people, because they are people. With communication, there's no reason to go, weeks and weeks and weeks without, hearing from someone. I don't like it when a client just falls off the face of the planet, and I'm sure they don't like it when they don't, hear from me for 2 or 3 weeks at a time. So communication is there. Communicate with each other about what you like, what works best for you, and then work it out that way. The moral of the story is communication is key. All right, and if you need help with print design or you want maybe some help with your website, feel free to contact me at Megan@prolificbanana.com.